Have you ever gotten something new and felt like you just weren't using it as well as you should be? This week, we're going to talk about my freeze dryer. I have a Harvest Right freeze dryer, and we're coming up on a year, and it has been awesome, but I haven't felt like I've been able to utilize it as well as I should, and I just got something super fun that is going to really help me out with my freeze dryer and utilizing it to preserve the harvest. So let me share with you what I got and show it to you, and if you have a freeze dryer or are thinking about one, this would be a big help for you too. I'm Megan of You Go to Be Kidding, and this here is what I got this week. So this is Freeze Drying the Harvest by Carolyn from its homesteading family, and she has been freeze drying for a while now. She has some really awesome YouTube videos that I have watched for a while now to try to learn how to do some things, but she just came out with this book. I had it on pre-order, but I think they ended up out of stock. And so I just got it in the mail yesterday, and I wanted to share it with you because I've looked through it already and spent a bunch of time reading through it last night. And it is super cool. It's exactly what I was looking for, and it is the tool that has been missing so far from the freeze drying market. And so let me show it to you. Let me go through it a little bit and talk to you about why I like it so much and why it would be helpful for you too. All right, so the book is beautiful. It is hardcover and has gorgeous illustrations and photos. I guess mostly photos, not illustrations. It has tons of tables with lots of useful information and just absolutely beautiful photography, but it is super helpful, and I am super excited to have it. So the whole first part of it, let me show you the table of contents here. The whole first part is getting familiar with freeze drying, and it's all about what exactly is freeze drying. It's how your freeze dryer works. It talks about energy use. It talks about getting started and the steps that it takes to actually freeze dry. All super awesome, especially if you are a beginner and you've just gotten a freeze dryer. But then part two, this encyclopedia of freeze drying foods, this is the gold section here. You can tell the first part is, about 100 or so pages, and then the encyclopedia part is more than 100 pages of just awesomeness. And then the appendix includes all sorts of charts and tables and things that you can make it easy to look. So let me show you kind of the beginning part. It's just going over containers and about the oxygen absorbers and how you store it and how easy it is to change the oil. All basic intro things that you would need to know. Absolutely super well done, super easy to go through, and it's beautiful, and lots of pictures in here as well. This is the pump level when you need to change your oil. And then as you go through here, she has an encyclopedia of freeze drying foods. They are listed alphabetically, A through E, starting with apples. And there's a whole section A through E. And then we get to, every once in a while in here there's an actual recipe, which includes what foods to blend together and then sticking it on your freeze dryer. But F through O and P through Z, and this is a significant section of the book here, and that it is just so cool, and it has all sorts of things that you'd want to know. So it started with apples, like I showed you before. That is one of our favorite things. We have done apples successfully. We did them pretty much just like this, sliced them up, and they are so good. You don't have to worry if the apple is a little mealy or if the texture is off. It is perfect every time. The taste is fantastic on them. And then it also includes some somewhat random things, like we have a bunch of them here. Let me see if I can find them. It is conveniently in alphabetical order. But the thing I was excited to see are pawpaws. We actually have pawpaws here on our property, and I had a bunch that I was thinking about freeze drying, but I didn't know if I could. Pawpaws have an incredibly short shelf life. They only ripen on the tree. You have to harvest them right away, and then you have to use them right away. And so I didn't get them in the freeze dryer, but I really should have. But I'm so excited to see them here in the book. That's super fun. And then actually something I just did this week was peppers and onions. And so there's a whole page here on peppers. So let me show you the page. It has uses and any equipment you might need. And then it even tells you how much food you'll need to put on your tray. So if you have the small, medium, large, or extra large freeze dryers, this is the size of the tray. And this is how much food you need per tray that you're going to put in there. It tells you how to prepare it or to pre-treat it, because some veggies need to be blanched, but some don't. So peppers are all good. And then it gives you some rehydration instructions. And there's other sections in the book that include how to rehydrate things, but this was just super straightforward and super easy. And I'm going to flip back to the onions, because that was something that I did as well. I did onions and peppers together. You can see the instructions for both onions and peppers are basically the same, but she's got them all in here. And this section, I am so looking forward to this section, because I know sometimes I think, well, what am I going to do with tomatoes if I freeze dry them? How am I going to use them when they're all done? And so let me find the tomato page. Tomatoes. And so they have them here. And then she even has the ratios for if you wanted to use tomato paste, tomato sauce, or tomato juice. Super easy. You can keep them diced and kind of eat them as a snack. But all sorts of tips for fruits with extra seeds in them, things like that. Super useful book. I'm really excited about it. So one thing I want to do is I just freeze dried some onions and some bell peppers, and I have done some tomatoes in the past. And so I wanted to throw together a chili in my Instant Pot and see what happened. So I think that these will work just fine. I usually saute my onions and peppers a little bit and add my seasonings, and then I usually add everything else and fill it all up and then just put it under pressure. So I added some chicken broth, just a little bit in here to try to saute / rehydrate the onions. I'm not sure how that step will work with freeze-dried ones, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna stick them in there and I'm gonna see what happens. So wish me luck. Smell like fresh. It's amazing. It's weird. They feel like really fluffy. Actually freeze-dried oregano from the garden. And freeze-dried garlic. This is actually tomato powder from last year's tomatoes, and I'm gonna put that in kind of like tomato paste. My chili is done with my freeze-dried onions and peppers and seasonings and tomatoes. So I'm going to open it up and see what it looks like. Okay. So I do need to grind up the ground beef. All right, so I think I see some bell peppers there and some onions, all good. The tomatoes had their skins on, and I've had issues like when I freeze the tomatoes, the skins are weird in here. But I see bell peppers, the red bell peppers, those look good. So I am seeing tomato skin down near the bottom of my spoon, which I guess is to be expected. But the peppers and the onions look great. They look totally normal. So I've got to figure out something with tomatoes. I don't love the tomato skins, but let me try a bite here. Cole, will you go grab me a spoon? I'm going to try a bite and see if the skins bother me. So usually I just freeze my tomatoes and then I just throw them in here exactly like I did these freeze-dried ones from straight out of the freezer. And I don't love the tomato skin in it, but let's see how it does. It's going to be hot. I don't think it has any different texture. So anyway, we eat it this way, so we're pretty used to it, and we just kind of deal with it because it's so easy to manage the tomatoes this way. But if that's going to bother you, just kind of know that there are still skins on the tomatoes. But otherwise, this looks awesome. So freeze-dried peppers and onions, a definite success. And the tomatoes, a success, just managing the skin and whether that's something you want on them. So the powdered tomatoes, I could have easily powdered the tomatoes and then that would have eliminated the issue, but I wouldn't have tomato chunks. I would just have tomato flavor. So the last section of the book has all of that information in a table form. So pineapple is something we've done before, and I actually have some fresh pineapples that I bought that I plan to run through again. Pineapple is so good through the freeze dryer. And so look, it has instructions on what to do if you want to chop it or slice it. It lets you know whether you have to pre-treat it, that would be like blanching or things like that, and whether you need to pre-freeze it, any special tools you might need, the approximate time until it's done. Pineapple does take an extra long time to freeze dry. We have experienced that for sure. And what to expect when it comes out. So this is super handy. This is a chart that goes through all of the different things. And then there are some other tables in the appendix section as well. Let's see. I know she's got some rehydration information. Yes, so Appendix B, a rehydration chart. And so you're talking the same kind of list. So we can see apples, and then how to use them and what to do with them, whether you want to soak them or spray them. Let's see, I think something over here said spray. It looks like cherries you would want to spray, and those can take a little bit longer to do, but most things you can soak. And this is the information I was missing. So that's a brief overview of the book. There's tons of information packed in, but it's also just simple and straightforward. It's an encyclopedia of all the things I'm going to want to know when I go to freeze dry something. And the beauty is that I don't have to grow everything. We've struggled here in the garden this year. My peppers really didn't do much. My tomatoes have been great. And I just threw them all in the freezer, which means that I can pull them out and stick them in the freeze dryer as is. I might need to make sure to score the skin. If you keep the skin intact, that can be hard to freeze dry, but I added, I just threw them in the freezer to make my life easy, and I can still freeze dry them. So I didn't take that out of my preservation options. And then now I can feel more confident that I'm going to know how to use them when they're done. Not being sure what to do with it on the back end was part of the trouble. It's fun to run candy through. I am doing some organic Giggles. They're the Skittle version through today to try some organic candy, and that type of stuff is super fun. We have loved doing fruits like apples and pineapple as great snacks, and we have done some of our milk, which I have a previous video about doing our goat's milk, and all that type of stuff is super useful. But I want to get more into actual meals, or even these peppers and onions. I'm really excited about meal components that I'm going to use more often. And pulling that out of my freezer. So we have diced up peppers and onions. Oh, I was talking about it. Our garden didn't do great, so I bought them in bulk from a local source, and that's super awesome. I don't have to grow it all, but I can find bulk deals, so I'm not paying full price at the grocery store, and then I can preserve them with a bulk amount and just preserve them as if I had grown them here at home. So I'm really excited about this book. I am excited that Carolyn wrote this for us and has it out here. I think freeze drying is a super cool modern way to help us preserve the harvest. We're trying to learn all these old skills, and that's super cool and neat. But we do have modern technology at our hands, and that is pretty cool too. So anyway, I got the book. I was super excited to look through it, and I wanted to share in case you were thinking about getting it. It is published by Homestead Books, and I was having a hard time finding it. I did pre-order through Amazon, but got it much later than I was expecting to get it. And I think the link for it, I was having trouble finding it, so I will link in the description or in the box below where to get it. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. It was just a product I was really excited to get my hands on because I have the freeze dryer, and it is super good. So if you have any questions about freeze drying, I can attempt to answer them or look them up in the book for you. I'd be happy to help share. But I am new to freeze drying myself, and just getting started and just getting really excited about what possibilities I have because of this really awesome tool. And so I'm so excited for the extra help. I can look on YouTube. There are some great YouTube videos, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty, I just want a book that I can put my hands on and a chart that I can see that includes all the different things I might look up. And this book has it. So I think that's it. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you. We're thankful you're here. And if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.